The Good Samaritan and the voting booth. That's the title, that's the topic of today's Daily Dose. Well, tomorrow's election day. Do you plan to take the time to vote? Or do you have other plans for your day? Is there something more important going on? I contend that the Good Samaritan would stop and vote. Check this out. Jesus told us a story about some guys who were too busy to stop, to help, and to be part of the solution. And we find this in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, beginning in verse 25. See, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "Well, what is written in the law?" Jesus replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Well, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, "Well, who is my neighbor?" Right? Who's my neighbor? Well, in reply, Jesus said a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes. They beat him. They went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So to a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, he came along where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, he bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, which is money, right? Real money, good money, and he gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said. "When I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Well, which one of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? Well, the experts in the law said, well, the man who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." Now, I would argue that not taking the time to stop, to cast your vote, puts you in the same camp as the priest and the Levite who walked by the man who was dying on the side of the road, because they didn't want to get their hands dirty. After all, they were above all of that. They had more important things to do. I'm going to say this: not voting is arrogance and it's indifference. It's gross selfishness. After all, there are countless people in our country, right here, even in our community, like that man on the side of the road, that are hurting, and they need help. They need somebody to intervene. For instance, how about the preborn child being formed in her mother's womb, whose mommy's being pressured into an abortion by a political party that profits from killing the unborn? Or how about the kindergartner who's confused, questioning his identity, his innocence is being robbed as his school is telling him that he needs to choose his gender? How about the single mom who can't keep up with her bills due to the rising inflation? That's the result, frankly, of gross financial mismanagement by leaders in Washington as they promote their pet projects instead of actually caring for people. How about the increase in crime that's affecting our neighborhoods, affecting our neighbors, because leaders are defunding police. They're allowing drugs to pour over our borders. Yes, there are many, many, many hurting, even dying. And they're looking for someone to care enough to stop and make a difference. Our neighbors are looking for some good Samaritans who will care enough to do something about all this brokenness and pain. Well, check this out. In America, Election Day is a time and a place where we can and we must stop and make a difference. Some would say that politics is dirty and that they're above all of that. Just like the Levite, just like the priest, right? Stopping and helping that man, that's just dirty. I'm above all that. I've got better things to do. Well, I encourage us to care enough to stop, to cast our vote for pro-life, pro-family, pro-freedom candidates. Look, I'll make it easy because the political parties themselves have made it really easy for us. The Democrat Party, for instance, is the party of abortion. They're the party that promotes gender dysphoria. They're the party that seems to highlight and encourage drag queen story hours with our kindergartners. They're the party that's all about defunding law enforcement. Their financial mismanagement is off the charts right now. Open borders. Look, read their own platform. It's in their own words, and look at their own actions. I'm going to tell you, they must be stopped because their agenda and their policies are hurting people, they're hurting families, and they're hurting this nation. I would say we need to be good Samaritans. We need to stop. We need to vote for the candidates and the parties that will stop all of this insanity and this hurt and this pain. Let's be the kind of neighbor that cares enough to do something about it. Tomorrow is election day. Be like the Good Samaritan. Stop, vote, help your neighbor. God bless you.